The day is April 15th, 2012, and this guy, Nazar Sarhan, has just been challenged to a duel. A few moments prior, he had just been crowned a two-time YCS champion, winning YCS Dallas 2011 and now the second edition of the tournament in 2012. He literally has the trophy next to him on the table. As a kicker, he had just completed the perfect YCS, an absolute rarity in Yu-Gi-Oh! 16 wins and 0 losses. Who is stupid enough to challenge this guy? Blake the Lotus McCrary is, apparently. He just got his first Top Cut appearance at this very tournament in Dallas. However, prior to this tournament, the Lotus is what many top players would call a scrub, of a rando. In fact, 2 weeks ago, Blake had no idea what Nazar Sarhan, the YCS champion, even looked like.
I've obviously been running Samurai since they first come out, and when the YCS Dallas happened for the first time, I was like, man, I'm about to take this and I'm about to get my name on the map. I wanted to be known as like the best Samurai player in the United States. That was my goal. I fell short. I was salty about it. I heard this guy named Nazar won. I didn't know who he was, but I mean, it didn't really matter to me. I was like, man, good for him, he won. Coming in this year at Cali, I hear a little bit talk about Nazar. He might take Long Beach. I get to Cali, it's Friday night, we're all testing in I think it's the Sheraton or whatever hotel it was at. And I'm with my friend looking for somebody to play with, and they're like, this guy looking at me like malice intent. I'm like, who is this guy looking at me like that, DJ? And he's like, oh, that's just Nazar. He looks at everybody like that. And so I'm thinking like, it's more of a, hey, you look like a decent duelist, let's play, like some Yu-Gi-Oh type stuff, right? I go over and ask him, hey, Nazar, you want to play? And then like, he gives me kind of this smug look, and he kind of blows me off. And so I'm like, all right, I guess you don't want to play, so I leave. The next 2 days, it was kind of like this quiet storm between us. Every time he would pass by, there was like, bluntly, he was an asshole. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I don't want any problems with this dude, so I left it alone.
This is how Nazar sees Blake. It's a waste of time. No notability. If he doesn't know who I am, why do I care? And hey, maybe the duel really was a waste of his time. I mean, Brian just did the equivalent of challenging Kyrie Irving to a game of pickups. The incident at the Sheraton was one thing you could put down and forget. But Brian thinks he deserves a game versus Nazar.
Now we get to 2 weeks later in Dallas, and this is obviously the same Nazar that won Dallas last year. My friends are like, hey, Blake, you gotta, like, this is your chance. So like, you're running Sams, obviously you got something to protect, so you need to show the world why you're a good Sam player. And I'm like, all right. And my goal at the end of the day, I was to get to day 2. But then I did that. Surprisingly, I ended up 6th place going in day 2. And I had my goal. I was like, I want to play Nazar in the finals, and I want to beat him. Like, that was my goal. Not because I was salty about him winning, but just because I felt like he was the man, and like that was the guy to beat, kind of like Billy Brake, right? So afterwards, after the event, we see Nazar getting his profile and stuff, and he's walking around with his clique, and he has his trophy in his hand. And then my friend John comes up, and he asks me, he's like, hey, I'm looking for trouble. I want to play somebody for money. I want to play somebody good. So I happen to see Nazar come by, and I'm like, why don't you play Nazar for money? And so he calls him out. He's like, hey, Nazar, like, you want to play for 20? Why the heck would you want to play me? He was like, you think you're better than me? You think you beat me? He's telling him to like go away, because you're not gonna beat a pro. Like you just want the title. Oh, you beat the champion. My friend John, he was about to explain himself. He was like, no, I really want to. And then in the middle of that, Nazar just like turned around real quick and then walked off. Like, and his friends turned around simultaneously, like some stuff you see in the movies. I'm like, and they just walked out. They didn't say anything. He was like, I don't have time for this, and he just turned around. I'm like, more so than me saying, hey, I want to defend John, because that was obviously disrespectful. Like, I was driven because I was tired of people letting this happen. Like, his behavior is only his behavior because people constantly allow it to happen.
Initially, Nazar wants to decline the duel. In fact, he has every right to. He has nothing personal with Blake McCrary. He can just say no and leave. Nazar has so much more to lose here than McCrary. Back in 2011, Nazar at age 16 has had cheating allegations follow him throughout his career. At YCS Dallas 2011, Nazar's first top cut appearance became his first win. People saw that he didn't take some of his wins seriously and that he was doing some things like playing with Konami sleeves rather than the one you buy at locals. Even though you were forced to sleeve your deck in Konami sleeves when you get into Top Cut, and like his deck list didn't make sense to the vast majority of players, even though it was really far ahead of its time. Let's just call them bogus claims. So winning his second YCS was there to disprove that. But young Nazar, under the pressure where you go 16-0, declining is almost like losing at that point. He accepts the duel.
I don't play for me. You don't come to my fucking city and you don't disrespect my friends. You don't do that shit. If you don't want to play him,
I said no.
If you don't want to play him, you don't have to act like you ain't gonna
I said
give
no.
him time
Said
of day.
why? But it doesn't matter.
Important context. So there's a card that's called Gateway of the Six. Every time a samurai monster is summoned, it gains 2 Bushido counters. You can pay 4 Bushido counters to summon back a samurai. And when you summon back a samurai monster with its own effect, it gets back its 2 counters, in this own self-perpetuating loop. This allows for a near infinite resurrecting army of samurai monsters, and it was so powerful that it got limited to 1 copy per deck. Blake McCrary has just unsleeved the best card in his deck.
Well, this is on camera, so Nazar, if you lose,
You gonna look like a fool.
He's
only lost the week.
huh?
It would be his only loss of the week.
It would be his own.
16-0, now it's 16-1. 16-1.
Blake wins the dice roll.
The game starts off with Blake drawing a 7th card for turn. Immediately after, Nazar drops the banger.
Oh, wait. Oh, my God.
Come on, you only gave you G.
Blake, you know that's...
He does put the card he drew, a keys on, back to the top of the deck. And then he sets 5. But for years afterwards, this moment would undergo a lot of scrutiny, because Blake knows he's gonna top deck a monster. Many say that's the reason he sets 5 cards instead of 4. Since he set 5, if he were to theoretically draw something like a Schier smoke signal or any other useful spell in his deck, he wouldn't be able to activate it. Instead, he gets to make 5 trap cards live and ready to go. Maybe it was just a mistake or a subconscious play, and it's really hard to quantify the malicious intent of the situation. But technicalities aside, back to the grudge match.
If Nazar loses, this will be his only loss of the whole weekend. I repeat, only loss of the whole weekend. There go his trophy.
So Blake proceeds to have a trap card for every single normal summon of Nazar's Dino Rabbit deck. He has Solemns, Fiendish Chain, and then lastly, as Nazar is actually able to resolve a Rescue Rabbit for 2 Saber Sorai, don't judge my English. El Clasico. Blake top decks. Needing to get in 2 attacks here for lethal damage, he searches Hand of the 6 Samurai with Smoke Signal. And then using 6 Samurai United to draw only a single card,
Let's go.
Wait. Repeat that. Just see what he said. Oh.
Hager goes, oh.
I want my spot back though. Ooh.
Let that nigga think like damn.
Got your ass.
What's up?
I want my spot back though. Where'd you get that?
Yo.
in game 2, Nazar gets to start with the Rabbit, getting out his Cabazols and summoning Evil's Arlogia, a 2400 attack walking Solemn Judgment. You can see why this era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was called Dino Rabbit. Logia effectively skips the turn of Blake. Going back to Nazar, he doesn't commit anything more to the field, and it's right back to Blake. I guess he'll take that opportunity.
Mad good at Yu-Gi-Oh.
Trisha Lord!
What up, what up?
You a Maxie? You Maxie what? He's gonna do it anyway. It's the Lotus. He's the Lotus. Let him know. This is Blake the Lotus. He said Maxie was Maxie.
I like that, Blake the Lotus. So I'm gonna change the name on his YouTube video.
What you say? The Lotus? Sure did say the Lotus. The Lotus.
Now Blake assembles a board of legendary 6 Samurai Shien and Naturia Beast, effectively shutting down all spells and traps of Nazar. Nazar is finally able to resolve a normal summon and make Wind Up Zen Mains, a card that will buy him another turn into this field. Nazar lives and then resolves another tour guide to get him Leviair the Sea Dragon, which summons back his banished rescue rabbit, makes Utopia, which then protects his Leviair and his life points. Nazar has stabilized. On the follow-up turn, Nazar regains control of the game with Utopia Ray, which then clears Shien. Lastly, Blake swings with Naturia Beast.
Good 700. You did.
Nazar takes game 2.
We've got game 3, and it's Shien set 3 go from McCrary. We've got normal summon Grand Mole. In the battle phase, the Grand Mole is met with the Phoenix Chain, then Mystical Space Typhoon from Nazar, which baits out Shien's Spell Negate. In main 2, Nazar nearly clears with Dark Hole, but there's a set Solemn Judgment. And with no way to get rid of the Shien, Blake is in full control with the tempo, and Nazar has to find an answer, and fast. Blake is hammering away at life points. To respond, all Nazar got is a 1900 beat stick. It swings over the keys on, I guess, and he passes. Here comes another baseball bat swing with a 3000 attack Shien. Nazar even gets a chance to get in for Gore's the Emissary of Darkness. That doesn't matter.
Everybody give it up for Gordon's mama's ass. Everybody give it up.
After a 6 Sam United, a Samurai Monster, and an Asceticism,
Scoop.
Ryan.
Samurai's win.
Ryan, baby, let's go.
no matter how big of an upset you just pulled off, respect the sportsmanship at the end. This match would light up the internet. It's literally an anime moment in real life. Blake wanted a duel, and he fought back the most on-fire player in the game. Joey Wheeler just took on Merrick and won. This match would invalidate the perfect YCS to many people, and Nazar would have the cheating allegations follow him for many more years, and eventually he would just fade away from the game. But Blake had finally restored his honor. He said he would put his city on his back, and he delivered under pressure, surrounded by many of the best players in the game. However, when some people fight for their honor, other people think that someone needs to get put in their place. This is Kevin Silva. He just won ARG St. Louis in 2014. I don't know, for Kevin, it's a pretty big achievement. Let's see what he has to say.
I bet Jeff Jones is so mad that I won. Oh yeah, you too. I'll be the one to say it on here. I'll play Jeff Jones for any amount of money, up to 500. But I know he won't play because he's so cocky.
Oh, okay. So he has just decided to play a guy named Jeff Jones. Jeff Jones seems like a very unassuming name. Let's see, how many tops does he have? Jeff Jones won SJC Edison in 2010, the last ever Shonen Jump Championship. There are a few alternate ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And in 2024, by far the most popular alternate format is called Edison format. It's the format of the tournament that Jeff Jones won. Oh shit, it's Jeff Jones.
For this. Next to the Tennessee. Okay, yeah, we'll play $500. Let's go. All right, you gonna talk shit? You can talk shit to my face. All right? And I'll play that shit. So Tennessee beating this motherfucker's ass for $500. You better sure you bring that shit.
Like, I know we all love a good story where a stupid person gets shut up. This is gonna be a story where a stupid person gets shut up. Word flies around the Yu-Gi-Oh space. The next big event, ARG Nashville, is gonna be a movie. It's $500 between Jeff Jones, the GOAT, and the cocky Kevin Silva. The community hears all about it. It's some kid who's about to challenge one of the faces of Yu-Gi-Oh! Mount Rushmore. However, ARG's tournament management, of course, gets wind of it. Are they gonna shut it down? Is it over? Is authority finally gonna get in the way of some cocky kid's challenge? No! Instead, they turn it into a spectacle. But it's the ARG Nashville charity match. They'll have a stream and commentary from the friends of both duelists. ARG will front the money to the winner's charity of choice. So guys, we have some awesome, pristine coverage from ARG Nashville 2014. Let's run it. Now, Jeff is known for bringing some fun decks to events. During this format, the idea of the best deck was something along the lines of Fire Fist, Mermail, and whatever was left of the Dragon Rulers. But for this charity match, Jeff has brought Harpies. It's not the best deck, it's not necessarily the worst, but it's brutally simple with just summon Harpies, make rank 4s, and I guess set a couple trap cards. But this is just Jeff Jones' style. And it's honestly a power play for Jeff. Knowing how Nazar had so much to lose back in his previous match, in this match, it makes a lot of sense to play a dumb deck. If some young underdog no-namer like Kevin Silva takes down a god of the game, it would be pretty embarrassing. But not if he's trolling the grudge match. Jeff Jones has somehow flipped the script of a grudge match before it's even begun. So what happened after? I'm gonna be honest, not much. The grudge match went about as expected. Jeff Jones would continue to be a god of the game, and even more reinforced by winning a best of 5 with a bad deck. The funnier part is that Kevin Silva would fall off the face of the Yu-Gi-Oh planet. He'd stop playing the highest level events and then just fade away. So, however, all the hype and excitement after Kevin Silva and Jeff Jones didn't really translate into any more of these grudge matches. Why? Back from 2004 to 2014, Yu-Gi-Oh was kind of in its first decade. I sat down with Bowden Temnick, a guy who has been playing the game since he was 11 years old back in 2005. And he says that everyone was just a young, rowdy teenager. The fact of the matter is that the player base had moved into its 20s, and also newer players were just around more grown-up people. People just realized this kind of thing wasn't worth their time. Petty little arguments over who's better and who's not. You can prove that to yourself by winning tournaments and events. And many other pro players I've talked to agree with this sentiment. It's also generally riskier, as I alluded to play a single match. Winner takes all the reputation style of game. We're older, and as humans, the reason we formed civilization is that we said fighting is bad. Also, the internet just became, more realistic. Less often things happen in person. Having a beef is just whatever, really. People would just act different online and fail to bring it in person. With that being said, the date is April 21st, 2024. At a brewery in Raleigh, North Carolina, the main event after the main event is about to begin. There's a gathering around a little table. There's 40 of like Yu-Gi-Oh's best players surrounding a small bar stool. 2 players have set up mats and are staring each other down. There are even people in the rafters getting a bird's eye view. Well, what's the hype about? On the left of this tiny little table is Hani Jawari. Hani can only be described as someone who is hyper competitive. He doesn't take BS from anybody, and he will play anyone at any time. In addition, he's a 3-time YCS champion, winning the most difficult YCS at Pasadena 2022 with tier limits. He's one of the most established players in Yu-Gi-Oh!, and let's just say he's got an ego to defend. Opposing him is an up-and-coming Yu-Gi-Oh! Player named Sean Pitman. In the past year, Pitman had been grinding online Yu-Gi-Oh! And he has translated that online notoriety into winning multiple different regionals. But the one thing with Sean is that even though he has all of this insane regional success, he hasn't been able to convert it into a single YCS top. And so the beef begins with Sean Pitman playing an online team battle against Hani Jawari and a group of his students. And Sean's team manages to reverse sweep the team battle with a Rescue Ace deck. At the time was considered a bad deck. The next day, Sean Pitman is in a group chat looking for some practice duels, with some stakes involved, where he gets told that one of Hani's students is looking for a duel. Seeing how he played against Hani, a little bit of banter comes through. One of Hani's students, free bread. This gets leaked to Hani. Let's get to yapping, ladies and gentlemen. So, it's gonna go down. Pitman versus Hani and Raleigh. One last hurrah for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Grudge match. After a slew of hand traps, game 1 just goes to Hani. It's hard to mess up a game when you've got pocket aces. In game 2, Hani's hand is simply weak, and despite his 2 hand traps, Pitman plays his cards correctly to win and bring out game 3. In game 3, Hani again starts off weak. His hand can't play through a single effect veiler reasonably, ending on IP and Flambers, with Sean Pitman's hand being absolutely disgusting. So Pitman goes into the battle phase and summons out Jerusalem. This will prevent IP from being able to link summon, which then stops Flambers from triggering, cutting off Hani from any and all plays next turn. However, even then, he leads off suboptimally. He banishes Hani's Diabellstar from the graveyard, which is a play that easily could have punished by a set wanted, adding the Witch back from the graveyard, which would prevent the Truest Worm from summoning, and people around the table already get to talking. Afterwards, Pitman goes into a Dark Charmer and then uses Tactics to take, stealing one of Hani's Flamberges. But critically, he does not use the effect of Hani's IP Masquerena out of his graveyard, which would have effectively locked up the match instantly, allowing him to make infinite plays out of his extra deck. He makes Hida instead, which takes the Snake Eye Ash, which walks right into Hani's Called by the Grave. Another misstep from Pitman, but this game isn't over. Pitman has one last push with his Snake Eyes Oak in his hand, which eats a Nibiru from Hani Jawari. Sean Pitman just extends the handshake out of embarrassment. Too many mistakes in too little time. The pressure of being around all the top players in the game just got to Pitman. That's all you can really say. But the craziest part is that the game was far from over. Hani had no playable cards remaining in his hand, and his next top deck was a Solemn Judgment. Both players would be fighting with sticks and stones, and Hani was not out of the woods yet. In retrospect, the match itself felt extremely old school. We have a player who's grinding through Yu-Gi-Oh!, trying to make a name for himself, but just hasn't gotten there yet, challenging the best in the game. It's a Nazar and a Blake McCrary, or a Silva and Jeff Jones, players who want to punch up and make a name for themselves in the community. But at the end of the day, fame doesn't really matter. I sat down with a bunch of top players and asked them the question, what does it mean to play for pride, and is it worth it? Overwhelmingly, I got the reply back, it simply isn't. One player said that anyone can lose in Yu-Gi-Oh! And just because you beat someone once or twice doesn't prove anything. At the end of the day, we kind of gotta ask, what do competitive players even play Yu-Gi-Oh! For? We don't get scholarships, the $10,000 prize cards, or the comically large checks by playing this game. We all play it because we think it's the best card game, and we think it's the best way we can prove to ourselves that we are truly good at something. Beefs more so drag down the community rather than uplift it at the end of the day. It gives people a negative view of others. For Nazar, he thought he had beat the cheating allegations with his second YCS win, but immediately after he had the forums going for his throat again. Kevin Silva basically vanished from Yu-Gi-Oh! After losing to Jeff Jones in the year that followed. Sean Pitman likely won't be the same. He's established enough, but it really hurts the character of the game. So enjoy the hype and stay out of beef. Remember guys, we're playing a children's card game. Thanks for watching. Shoutouts to all the professional players I had the chance to sit down and talk to, the answering of Facebook messages and all the likes. Y'all know who you are. And as always, shoutouts to the Patreon. Sorry for the lack of uploads lately. Creative motivation is pretty hard when you yourself are traveling for card games. Anyways, peace.